a deal fell off the table publicly, that's super embarrassing. It's like a cancer inside of your organization. We have to make sure that rep adoption is front and foremost of anything that we do as an organization.
The Next Gen Sales Leaders Podcast. Coffees for Closers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Next Gen Sales Leader Podcast. We are here with Jordan Park, who is the founder of Rev Pilot. Welcome to the show, Jordan.
Man, what's up? Thank you for having me. It's I think we chatted a little while ago, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and talked about doing the show. So I've been excited to get on here.
I've been following you guys kind of from afar for a while. I've been impressed with your marketing. It seems like we travel very similar journeys in terms of sales operations, helping people set up their sales teams. We obviously like Close as a CRM. Sounds like you're getting more into HubSpot, but can you give us the 30,000 foot view of what do you guys do? What is your service offering and what is your expertise?
Yeah. So we founded Rev Pilot. Rev Pilot essentially is there to, get rid of the noise when it comes to building sales systems and sales processes that ultimately are scalable at the end of the day. So we try to remove as much as we can from the sales process, simplify and just build scalable sales processes that people actually use. I like to say that sales reps like to use and leaders trust, right? Having trust in your system is by far the most important thing. There's nothing worse than looking at a dashboard and not believing any of the numbers on it. So at the end of the day, that's really what we do. We use different technologies. We're kind of CRM agnostic. So HubSpot, Close CRM, and then anything else in between that's ultimately going to help us, solve the challenges that we're trying to solve for that specific client. We like to really take a solution or problem first solution. I see a lot of people in this space creating problems that don't yet exist. So we try to, build the simplest possible thing to achieve the outcome that we want. And that's it, man. So, and I know you have had similar challenges with reporting in close.com and things like that. And that's kind of why I mentioned the trust piece in reporting. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was really impressed by the dashboards that you guys had come up with in the past. And it was actually a big inspiration for me in terms of some of the reporting that I'm now building into ReviOps, the software company that is a central database analytics tool that I've been building. So just so you know, you were part of the inspiration for that kind of journey because I really liked what you guys were doing. But to your point, part of the challenge is the dashboarding technology and the way that you gather data from the CRM to then visualize it. But there's a whole human side of things. So could you tell me, what's your experience with getting sales reps to actually use CRMs and put data in properly and get them to use dashboards?
Yes, that's a great question. So sales rep adoption is by far going to be arguably the most important piece. If you build the coolest sales process on the planet, no one uses it, then nothing else really matters. And even worse, your data is going to be cooked. It's just going to be unsanitary and you're not going to be able to use it inside of your organization. And if you do, then you're going to be making the wrong decisions when you think you're making the right ones, which obviously it's like a cancer inside of your organization. So we have to make sure that rep adoption is front and foremost of anything that we do as an organization. And the question of how do we do that ultimately, in a way, becomes more of a sales leadership conversation. So we actually like to link arms with the sales leaders. That may be the sales manager, sales director, the CRO, whoever it is at the organization, and help coach them on how to have conversations about their systems. And this is a little different because educating the sales rep on how to use it is one thing. But that usually is not enough. And where we typically find the biggest needle mover in rep adoption is, again, how we actually communicate this change to the sales reps. A lot of sales managers will go, guys, I know there's another change and I'm fighting for you guys, but they have to make this. It's like this big deal, that it's like a task for them to do this. And we really like to educate them on the conversation should be centered around, hey guys, so we have this new process. And the whole reason for this process is to fix this specific thing that we built the process for. Now, if the process wasn't built to fix something in the first place, then why'd we build it? You know? So really tying back to the core issue that we're resolving. And then how does that relate back to their paycheck at the end of the day? Especially with salespeople, they're commission only salespeople. All they care about is this going to make me more money, right? Is this going to make my life easier? Is it going to help me close more deals? If so, they'll be on board all day. But you have to be able to communicate that in a way that it's not this tedious thing that they need to do. It's to resolve this problem. And if that problem is resolved, it's going to result in more money in their bank account. And that is a leadership conversation at the end of the day. No amount of Loom videos or SOPs is ever going to fix that problem. So that's kind of how we look at it. I know that was a long answer, but that is something like just so core to everything we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it between you and me, it's like we're kind of two peas in a pod, preaching to the choir, whatever cliche you want to use, in that we understand the value of deep sales operations, obviously it's clean and but also complete sales process, documenting playbooks, but also a culture around using CRMs and dashboards. What I have found in the market is that especially in the smaller companies, so let's say like 1 million to 4 million revenue range, or even up to 20 million. Hell, I've seen companies that are doing $50 million and have this problem.
Yeah.
And the issue is that they don't seem to understand that sales management is different than sales operations. And you can have a really good sales manager who's horrible at sales operations, and they don't understand the automation component, the dashboarding component, the technical integration component. And so what we have found is in our own practice is that we have to go in and get the entrepreneur or the owner of the business or even the CRO to understand that you can't just get a sales manager in there and expect them to solve your sales operations problems or your dashboarding problems. So I'm curious, like, how do you think about that? And is this something that do you screen for before you bring on clients? Do you require certain things to be in place or a certain ethos or culture? How do you weed through that kind of tricky dynamic?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of discovery to be done in some of these problems, because what you may actually try to end up solving with a process or a new system is, again, just a leadership issue. So that's something we really try to be careful of like, oh man, our show rate. Let's just say the show rate is like easy one to use. Let's say our show rate is just, down in the dumps. We need to fix it. It's like, okay, there's a lot of ways to fix that, but like, what is the current processes being followed? What is the sales rep's day to day when it comes to these appointments? And half the time you'll find that, well, there's no ownership, there's no accountability tied into this. So that is something, and again, we have to get ahead of. So we do a lot of discovery of like, is this a leadership problem? Is this a system problem? What has been tried so far? And that's almost all in the sales conversation of really getting a good idea of like, if we build systems, like, are they going to be followed? But then two, are they going to do anything? Because we can't fix sales rep problems. We can't fix behavioral problems with a system most of the time. So that's what we look for, is more of the behavioral problems. And then we try to take a very consultative approach in those situations, which is being very direct about the problem that we're trying to solve and communicating that. I think we have got ourselves in trouble in the past of, trying to solve these problems by creating systems instead of just having the honest conversation with that company and saying, hey, no amount of systems is going to fix this problem. So,
Yeah, it's true. And the thing is we had a call, we were just onboarding a new client. We have a product called Scale Ops, which is putting in sales operations, closed CRM implementation. And this client said to me, well, we have a new sales manager coming on board. And we told them the importance of them using your sales operations process. And I said, well, let me ask you just a couple of quick questions. One is, how much sales management experience does this person have? Is this a new manager? Is this a senior person? Do they have their own expectations around process? And there's many ways that that could have gone. One of them is there's a really senior manager coming in and they are like, screw your process. You're going to use
I
mine.
have mine. Yeah.
And so then you're in a fight with, this manager. The alternative is you have somebody who has no experience and they're kind of green-eyed or doe-eyed and not knowing what to do, but they have different problems of just not knowing how to be a manager in the first place. And so it's like, how do you get this guy to hold people accountable when they don't even have management experience?
Yep.
And I have a whole training on just like what it means to be a manager, and it's so much different than people even realize if they haven't gone before. So you're right. It's like the challenge of sales process adoption is ultimately always a human problem.
Yeah.
And there's a weird cultural thing I've noticed across sales teams is that sales reps are, generally speaking, resistant to change. Generally speaking, aren't tech savvy, and they don't like to use CRMs generally. And this is me over generalizing. And on top of that, they tend to be coddled by sales leadership. Like if like the star guy is like complaining, oh no, Bobby's complaining, we can't have Bobby be upset.
Yeah.
And so it's a tricky thing. I just struggle with this even in my own agency. I'm curious how you deal with this. It's like, what do you do when Bobby just won't get on board and he's bucking the trend? And we know to scale, to your point about like repeatable process, simple but repeatable process, but Bobby just won't get on board. And so everyone else is pushing back. What do you do?
Two things. One, make it very visible that he is the problem, because sometimes it'll go as far as like, Bobby isn't following the process. So he's, I want to be careful of how I say this, but it really does happen pretty often, which is, the system's not working the way it's supposed to. Right.
Exactly.
And in reality, the logs are fine. The zaps are fine. Like, it's like, no, you just decided to submit this activity 3 times, right? That's why there's 3 opportunities, or you never submitted it. So creating a lot of visibility just around like who is and who isn't using the system is, I think, the first step. The second, though, I think at the end of the day is just really earning the trust of the sales manager. And that comes with, showing them that you are a professional. You've been doing this a long time. I mean, my background, I was a fractional sales leader before a sales ops, guy. So, I have a great mix of both sides of this, and I have to be able to have those conversations. My team has to be able to have those conversations with the manager. And usually the manager is very receptive to it because they also are struggling to manage this person. So, they get some ammo from us and they're like, oh, I'm going to go handle this situation, right? Because they now have, again, to your point, if they're kind of new, they have, new information. If they've been in the game a long time, then you almost got to feed into that ego a little bit and play in with it. But things like with that specific sales rep that is not adopting anything, proving what it's costing him is by far the best thing you can do. So if you can go find the situations where he decided not to follow process and a deal fell off the table and bring that up publicly, like that's super embarrassing, right? Like this was like a no-brainer deal closed that you just left on the table because you didn't do this. So that would kind of be the things of like, creating the visibility so we can see when people aren't doing their job. The second would be, getting the buy-in from the manager, and you're working together with that person instead of just handing stuff off. Like you need to do this process. And then also sitting with the sales reps is something that a lot of people don't do, which is go get on a one-on-one with that sales rep and say, hey man, help me understand, like, how do you feel about your job? Like just let him vent and tell you all the problems in the world. And sometimes you'll be like, you connect the dots, be like, oh, cool. Our system actually solves like a lot of this for you. And now he's your best friend, because you're the guy that's on his side. So that would kind of be the 3 pieces. But yeah, one-on-ones with sales reps is very helpful. And a lot of sales ops agencies don't do that. I'm guilty. Yeah, I can do it more than I even do it. Like I could heed my own advice there.
Yeah, no doubt. It's human problems are not always logical, right? It's a lot of emotional management and getting people to not feel one slighted, taken advantage of, cast to the side, or just completely bulldozed. So, I think this is really any change management problem, which is like you go in with a new tech or new solution or new process, and you're basically telling whoever's there is like, look, your process as it was is no longer there. Get on board with me. And I think there's just a natural human pushback. I just think when we add in the fact that sales reps, especially good sales reps, are challengers, so
Yes,
they want to challenge.
exactly.
So it's a recipe for like low tech adoption, kind of prickly in the beginning and kind of ego maniacs. It's like
Yeah.
where all the ego maniacs
Yeah.
go. And on top of that, you're bucking the trend and they like to challenge. It's like, good luck. For me, that's part of the reason where we like to, in our own agency, go after people that don't have that fully built out, because
Yep.
we find that if you get to build the culture from the ground up, you get a lot better traction versus you go into a 20-person sales team and 2 to 3 people aren't liking it. The main guy doesn't like it. And
It's an
fucking
absolute
the Bronco.
disaster. It can be so bad. We've had a couple implementations that were just like, I mean, literally we got done with a, let's say a 3-month engagement. And it turned out like, hey, we're actually not going to use this system at all. We're going back to our old system. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because of this exact thing. The sales reps are like, I don't like this. And that entire organization was ran by the sales reps. I mean, there was no real leadership there. So that's happened. And that was on us ultimately to realize that earlier on, and get ahead of that, and there may not be a solution for it with some of those organizations. If they're not ready to make the changes and they don't have, any control over their own teams, then, what can you do at some point? So
This is a break in the podcast to bring you our sponsor, RevyOps.com. That is REVYOPS.com, the #1 GTM data management platform for your GTM and revenue operations data on planet Earth. If you are using the modern stack of Clay and Instantly and Email Bison and RB2B and Trigify and all these various tools scattered across the wind, we unify all that data all into one place so you don't have any duplicates, a unified view of every single contact so you can see all the data and all the activities across all the platforms all in one place. It will allow you and your team to move faster, to get better attribution across the entire funnel, and to make a heck of a lot more money. Go to RevyOps.com, check out how you can get started today with me on a call where we'll learn about your data management problems and how we can get you guys to the next level of growth. See you guys at RevyOps.com. Go there now. It will be in the show notes as well down below. Let's get back to the podcast. Exactly. Well, we just turned down a client for this exact reason, where they came in, they were about to sign our standard scale ops package. We'd come in and deploy the CRM, et cetera. And right before we were about to sign on the dotted line, they brought on 2 of the sales reps, and 2 of the sales reps started kind of complaining. And then all of a sudden the main entrepreneur said, there's no way my sales reps are going to do this. Is too complex. And I was just like, okay, well, first off, it's not too complex. We have many sales reps doing it now. It's perfectly easy. I use it every single day and I manage a bunch of things beyond being a salesperson.
Yep.
So it's not too complex. The problem is that if that's your attitude going into it, you're now making excuses for your sales reps before you even get into the thing. And so for me, one of the core qualification criteria I have for adopting this, and I think any entrepreneur listening to this who's like, I want to implement a system, the thing is, you've got to realize you're building a culture around data integrity, CRM utilization, process. And if you do not truly drill that into everyone's brain and hire for it, manage to it, and hold people accountable, it will just collapse on itself.
yeah.
So it is the fundamental challenge, I think, of adoption, is just how do you build that culture? And if you have one person, especially at the head of the snake, that the owner of the business or the CRO is just like, whatever, you can be kind of like loosey-goosey with it, well, the whole thing is destined to fail.
Yeah, and that's any business. I think I'm a big believer in top-down leadership, and what starts at the top will trickle all the way down. And the behaviors, the best organizations that I've ever either worked in myself or worked with, have a very strong leader at the top with a very clear vision of, what they want and what this organization is going to look like. And, if you fit into that, like, you are going to be a star player, and you're just like, it's an awesome role. And if you're out of that, you're gone. There's not even a question about it. And some organizations, unfortunately, just lack that. And yeah, at that point, to your point, it is really important to get as far ahead of that as possible, because the last thing you want to do is charge someone a bunch of money to fix a problem that a system's never going to fix, like I said earlier. And, that obviously is not something we want to do. I don't want to waste my time doing that. And it's not good for anyone. If they're not ready, then they're not ready. So.
I had a experience years ago. I was the chief operating officer of a business, and I was able to hire a part of the team, but not the entire team, mostly on the sales and marketing side. And then the head of product handled all of the tech people and the product people and the designers. And then there was a CEO who was kind of half in, half out, kind of like one of those, essentially a guy who had a lot of money, and it was kind of a side hustle for him. And he was doing it because it just was like, it was cool to say he was a tech entrepreneur. So anyways, what ended up happening was a few of the people went to the CEO and basically complained from the product side that I was too intense on the marketing and sales side. And there were different complaints, but it was mostly about me being intense and holding them to certain standards, and they didn't like that. So he ended up calling in a culture coach. And the culture coach came in and interviewed everybody, and we did this whole DISC assessment and personality assessment. And we did this whole 3-day kumbaya where it was like, let's all, everyone put sticky notes on what your values are on the board, and we're going to vote on our values.
Yeah.
And we went through it. We came up with some values, and it was some mishmash bullshit. And it was basically like, maybe 10% of the values. I was like, yeah, I kind of get that. But the rest, I'm like, that's not my value. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
And it became very clear to me, to your point about this top-down leadership, which is like, if you have somebody who's at the helm who either just doesn't care or doesn't know, or just isn't like a great leader, has a very clear vision, has very clear values, holds the ground, holds the standard, has clear principles that he wants you to follow, that's like good leadership. If you don't have that, then what ends up happening is the masses, it's like a democratized kind of voting of value systems, and there's going to be a clash because some people will hire to different values than other people, and all of a sudden you have value clash across the org. And it's not that anyone's wrong, it's just that the values never aligned to begin with.
Yeah.
So for me, I just truly believe like you need to set the values top down. Everybody from management to the middle management to the lower guys on the totem pole all need to be held to the same value system so that nobody can be like, this isn't working.
Yeah, where I see a lot of issues with that, I know it's kind of off topic of like what we do, but like the leadership piece is a huge part of what we do. In all aspects, our own agencies, working with the clients that we do. But I find in a lot of organizations, there's a lack of organizational structure. And it's kind of funny because for a while, I think that was like the cool thing to do in an organization, which was, oh, we don't have titles around here. We're just all like workers and we just do stuff, and that's okay. If you're a startup and you got 5 employees, right. And you're just all grinding it out. But as soon as you start to build an actual organization, there are roles and responsibilities and hierarchies that have to be in place, not for the simple fact that there has to be accountability that lies with someone, So if I have 3 people under me and that team is not operating at the level that they should be, who's responsible? Well, I am. Right. But then there should also always be that person above me who also has to take responsibility for my actions. Right. Which is, how did someone let me go this far down this path that my whole team is just out of control? Right. Like that's something I messed up in my leader. So in organizations where you don't have this just nice hierarchical structure, with everyone reporting to someone and just total accountability up the chain, then you end up with, just finger pointing, because no one's actually responsible for anything. No one has accountability over anything. So you can always just pass the problem to someone else. And I see that happen way too often with companies. And, I'm not a big disciplinarian, but I am, there's just certain expectations that exist, and that's just a fact. And if you want to be in the organization, awesome. Here's the bar, it's pretty achievable bar, but maybe not for everyone. So.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things I think I got this from one of your, I don't know if it was a blog or a YouTube video a long time ago, maybe a year ago, where you guys said, look, you need to either make, it was something like 200 calls per day, or there was a trade-off of like
Yep,
X
either
number of
or
meetings.
KPIs. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was very interesting. And I actually created something called the sales rep bullshit tracker.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing was like built upon that idea of like, okay, you have this amount of time in the day, you have this many breaks, you have this many, let's say bathroom breaks. And it wasn't to micromanage. It was just to like, let sales managers go, let's put in at the end of the day, how many calls, text messages, emails, meetings, etc. were made. You don't have to share this with the rep, but just like ask yourself, is this bullshit? Because so much time when I look at sales analytics, just especially like top of funnel activity metrics, there's always this excuse of, oh, I was doing these other things, or I didn't have time. And when I actually drill into it, I'm like, that's just not true. Like, it's like, there's no way. Like you are out to lunch.
And your point, 50 outbound dials a day is good somehow. And to your point, it's not. The sales reps are not working. They're definitely not working 8 hours a day. And it's, I think, become a big problem, especially in the high ticket coaching space where we do a lot of work, where people just don't realize how much the sales reps are actually working. I came from call centers, way back in the day, and like call centers, one thing I can respect about them, every single minute of your time is attributed somewhere, and it is micromanaged. It's horrible. And I never would want my employees or my sales reps to work in that same structure. But if I have to if I have to do that to prove that people aren't doing anything. And have you heard of dialer.io?
I have not, no.
No. So it's a new dialer. This guy, Matt Ryder, created it. It's helps improve connection rates. Super cool dialer. You should check it out. But he was one of the first people that identified this exact problem, which was like, yeah, setters say they're working 8 hours. Like they're barely working 2-3 hours a day. And the dialer essentially, it makes it super simple because you just go available and then you get served up calls. And the back end of this thing is really cool because it serves up the highest priority lead based on a lot of different stuff. So all they have to do is click call, and then they have the conversation, they disposition it, and then bloop, another one pops up. And you don't have to go to the CRM. You don't do anything but go available and stay available. Right. And you'll just be served up calls. You don't have to do anything. And what you see is when you implement this into an organization, you instantly see that their 8-hour shift, they're on the dialer for 2 hours. And the sales manager's like, oh, that can't be possible. No. They said they were working. It's like, they're not. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not. So yeah, that's a really interesting one.
Yeah, it's one of those things also where it's like, what kind of sales process is it too? If we're going enterprise level and that there's just a tremendous amount of like LinkedIn outbound and social type of prospecting, I kind of can see, but then there needs to be a different way to track
Correct,
the activity there, which is actually like a challenge for me because like I'm such a lover of close, but they just absolutely refuse to integrate with
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yeah. And so we are using Condo right now as a inbox manager. I've considered going to Lemlist, but I'm like, I really don't want to have my dialer and my SMS and email and all of that in a separate system. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just struggle with Condo as like kind of a sidecar to the Closes central inbox.
Yeah.
But there's all these different like sales enablement tools that have been popping up. And I'm curious, like, how do you think about that if you have something that's as robust as Close, but then you get something like dialer.io that comes up and you're like, oh, that's cool. You know, I want to try that too.
Yeah, I think it goes back to one of the first things I said, which is what problem are we trying to solve? And, a lot of people need to start asking that question more, especially with AI. I've been getting it. I think we chatted about this. I've been getting a ton of people come to me. Hey, yeah, do you guys do AI? Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do all kinds of cool AI stuff. Okay, perfect. Like, I have to get AI in my process. It's like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, what do you want to automate? Oh, well, I needed to communicate with my inbound leads. It's like, okay, cool. How many inbound leads do you have a week? And this is a real conversation. I have 12, about 12 a week. I'm like, oh, okay. Like 1, 2, like 12 leads. Yeah, 12. I'm like, okay. And what's preventing you from like just texting those people back? Like why are you even using a CRM almost? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can we just use your iPhone? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, but again, we're trying to solve the wrong problem. He just felt like he needs AI because he's been told he needs AI. He's not actually trying to solve any problem other than maybe it could be easier. Building out an entire AI solution to handle his 12 inbound leads a week is far more complex and more work than it would be just to text them back. So it's like, moral of the story, we always have to go back to what are we actually trying to solve. So, if it's connection rate, like, hey, we've been on Close, we've tried new numbers, we've been dialing, our volume's just too high, and, we have a very poor connection rate with the leads that we're calling. It's like, okay, perfect. Let's solve that, and then it's not switch dialers right away. It's like, what would get them to answer the call? Maybe we text them first, right? So for the next few days, let's shoot them a text message before we dial them and see if that gets, the connection rate to increase. We can test a few things, split test them against the control and go, okay, yeah, this is good enough. We just went from 5% to 10%. We're good with 10%. So I'm a big believer in that. It's like LinkedIn. If we're seeing that, hey, tracking rep activity is super important because, we have great people, but we feel like they could be doing more. And, we've communicated this problem, but we can't figure out, okay, great. How can we track that activity? There's a lot of ways to do it. And guys like you and me, people always ask, oh, is that possible? I'm like, I think almost anything is possible. The question is, how much time, money, and effort do you want to put into solving that problem? And is it worth it? Because we can go hire a developer and we can go build damn near anything we want. So, I think it just comes down to what problem you're trying to solve, and then does that tool make sense? And I'm 100% fine with bringing it into Close, bringing it into the tech stack, if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am always baffled when people will try to solve problems that look fun to solve, but don't actually move the needle at all, which is kind of your whole point, which is like, there's a quote from Alex Hormozy, which says that the purpose of a CEO is to identify the biggest constraint in your business and allocate resources to solve it. Mm-hmm. But the key piece of that is you have to have discernment and judgment on what is the biggest constraint.
Yeah.
And the problem is that people oftentimes don't, first off, they don't even think about it like that.
Yeah.
Second off, even if they did think of it like that, they don't understand the constraints at play. And so they quickly just go to like the buzzword, oh, AI will solve it.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm such a contrarian when it comes to AI generally, and this is, I'm somebody who probably is at the cutting edge of AI as you possibly could be, having started multiple AI businesses, doing crazy stuff like doing satellite image recognition using computer vision, and then doing geofencing and looking at cell phone records within the geofence and then matching that all with AI. I'm a big AI believer, but I believe people think it's like the next coming of Jesus. And AI is constrained, one, by access to data, and two is by the fact that it's like, it's all based upon prompts at this point, essentially. Even if like you see some like AI tool, like AI SDR in the world, all it is a chain of prompts happening in the background that is connected to a front end that is being fed data as an input, and there's some type of output that comes into it. So it's as good as the prompt, it's good as the hallucination, it's as good as the tuning of the model. How well is it tuned? For example, you need to have at least 50,000 data points on a training model before you can even begin to start to use it for something very bespoke and custom. And so there's a lot of nuance to AI that people don't understand, and they think, oh, what are you doing with AI? We just need to use GPT and just like throw a prompt in there and it'll solve our problems.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, do you have access to the data? Is the workflow optimized? Are you clear on what kind of output you want? Are you happy with the hallucinations that will likely occur? Like, what is the risk? Like, for example, if let's say 1 out of 500 just has some weird thing happen, are you cool with that?
And that was the yes, 100%. In that specific use case, these were also very high intent, high touch, like important leads, important people, right? And I'm like, dude, what is the cost of one of those? Just getting a wonky text, like what does that cost you? And it was like $120,000 to $150,000 deal that would just like implode on itself. So it's like, okay, so like let's say you lost one of those a year, like that means this AI has to essentially go generate you 4x whatever that loss would be, so like, are you confident this thing's going to go generate you $500,000? Like it just, you have to sit down and really think about that math, because it may make sense, but yeah, you have to boil it down to what that is. I think a lot of people, when you're talking about the constraints, a lot of people assign like a false urgency or a false level of emotion to certain problems also. So it feels like it's a bigger problem than it even is. And usually it's made up of just a bunch of smaller problems that, are relatively easy to fix if you just break it down far enough. And I think people like myself and maybe even you probably have learned a lesson by now, but I'm guessing back in the day, I know I struggled with it sometimes, which was like building, because we like to build cool stuff, right? I love to build cool stuff. But cool stuff is not good stuff. It's not the same thing. It's not effective stuff all the time. So, I would sometimes catch myself building very over complex thing. I'm talking like 7 years ago when I was first getting into this, like, I'd be like, oh yeah, I built this cool. It would work 50% of the time. It would break every other day. It's just like so unnecessary. There's usually a much simpler way. So,
yeah, I think that's a funny thing in lead generation. So for people listening, there's kind of like two siblings that connect together, which is pre-lead capture, lead generation, or I should say pre-qualification lead generation, which is your cold emailing, your LinkedIn, your outbound dialing kind of revenue, or I should say lead generation agencies. Then you have post-lead capture sales operations, which is to optimize the sales team, which is what we're talking about here. What I have found is that revenue generation agencies, or I should say revenue operations agencies, sales operations agencies, tend to be substantially more sophisticated than lead generation agencies. And I think there's two reasons for that. One is because to be a good sales operator or revenue operations person, you have to have gone through some deep level of experience. Otherwise, you're just going to look like a fool, and everyone will know very quickly.
Yeah.
It's very obvious when you don't know what you're talking about on that side of the coin. Whereas on the lead generation side, it's like, did a meeting get booked? And everything else is secondary to that.
Yeah.
And so it's like the output of it is like, it could be completely black box, and there's not 40 sales reps staring at you going, this sucks. Whereas on the sales operations side, like it's transparent how bad it is or how good it is or how efficient it is. And you better be able to hold your own because you're going to get challenged by 20 sales guys. But the problem, though, is on the lead generation side is that it attracts, I think Ken from AutoUp said this really well. It's like it attracts the dregs of society. So it's like everybody and their brother who wants a get quick, get rich quick kind of business is like, I'm going to go, buy a list and do some cold email with Instantly. And I'll be in business and I'm going to go charge $3,000 a pop. And look, mom, I'm rich and I'm 22
Yep.
years old.
Yeah.
And so the issue is that it then also attracts kind of like you said, these hyper MacGyver types. They want to just throw shit together and glue together a go high level with click funnels. And it's like, oh, look, man, I just put together a landing page. And therefore they think Lovable is the next coming of, Jesus, and that we're having like this revolution and AI is taking over the world. And you get this kind of hype circle, especially because these guys are all very vocal on LinkedIn or Twitter. And you would think that that there was this crazy revolution happening. And in my opinion, it's a bubble. I think that the loudest people are actually mostly the most ignorant people. This one guy the other day, who is like considered a thought leader in our space, he said something like RevOps will be dead in a year. And I was just like, no, it won't. I'm like, he's like, look what I just did with Lovable and look at this dashboard I created. And I was able to extract all this information from Salesforce. And it's like, I don't need a RevOps person. And I'm like, don't even get me started. I'm like, even if your dashboard is simple as hell, first off, if you want to do any real analysis of the data, you have to be able to extract it in the right format. You have to make sure you deduplicate it, that you merge it, that you have a good semantic layer, that you have a good, there's just so much I could go into this when it comes to, ooh, are you still there?
Yes.
I thought I lost you.
Yep.
But you get the point, is that it's like just managing data in merging across multiple systems is challenging. So it's like,
Yes.
yeah, okay, if you're pulling out from, say, HubSpot or Salesforce and you want to see how many calls were made that day, easy, do it with Lovable. But now what happens if you want to then combine, okay, what happened on, I don't know, HeyReach with your outbound activity, and you also want to see what happened in HubSpot, and you want to be able to understand your lead generation from Meta ads and TikTok at the same time in one dashboard. And then you want to see where the UTM parameters played a part and how you can filter by those UTM parameters. It's like, okay, that's not a front end problem. That's a data merging, analytics layer, a semantics layer, which is a labeling of the data, making sure it all merges correctly together. That's not solved by AI. That's not solved by a Lovable problem or a Lovable system or a Replit system. There's a deeper architecture and process thinking that goes into it that will not be replaced by AI. And so anyways, don't get me started on this, but the AI whole like vibe coding scene just drives me insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was told, it's actually funny you say that. I was told by a very good friend about January of this year that, hey, basically you might want to consider a new job because, people like you are not going to exist anymore. Which was a really hot take in my opinion. Because at that moment I felt like there was never a time that the world needed people like me more. Because the question right now is not, is there is there a system that can do this thing? The problem is you have way too many systems that can do way too many things. And there's hundreds of tools you can, so the question is more the context and the experience of how do you think about a sales process and how do you troubleshoot through a, scalable solution that is not, like you said, duct taped together. It's not, you don't have 20 tools. AI is not really going to be able to provide that to you. It can help you problem solve through it, but you have to know what questions to even ask it to be able to get the answer. And this is where like a fun exercise is, like a prompt contest of like grab someone on your team that's like, I don't know, like a customer service person, let's say, little to no context about building a sales process end to end, right? And then take you and go into ChatGPT and try to build the same process out. Like, can they arrive at the same thing you do? And how long does it take? And if they're really good question askers, like they might be able to get close. But most people are not that good at asking questions. And usually the people that are that good at asking questions are in this specific role. That they are the ones building this stuff. So, it's kind of a hot take because right now I think it's more so about how do you sift through the bullshit and, get down to what actually needs to be built. And like you said, you're on the cutting edge of AI. I mean, I also am. So it's like if there's anyone, like, I don't know how I would get replaced when I'm the one building those tools for the people that need them. Like until AI decides to build its own tools for people. Which, now you're really, I don't know, it's hard to know where AI will be in 2 years, but yeah.
There's multiple layers to this question, which is like, first off, I have a core principle for me as a human being, putting aside AI, which is no advice without context. And so why do I have that piece or that principle? It's because if I start to just say things based upon my prior experience, which I can do sometimes, I oftentimes will, talking about the constraint identification before, I might be giving you information that isn't relevant to your situation because you're at a different stage. Mm-hmm. And one of the core ideas, and I think entrepreneurship, is that what works at one stage will not work at another stage. There's a great saying of like, the levers of entrepreneurship is like capital, money, human capital, humans, audience, content, and technology. I think it's 5. But somebody said something along the lines of like, the actual 6th lever nobody talks about is knowing when to use any one of those other levers, right? So it's like, when do you deploy more people? When do you deploy more content? Content could be process and playbooks. When do you deploy technology? Because to your point, you don't need a CRM if you only have 5 leads coming in, right? Now, maybe you can make an argument for it, but it's not nearly as intense. And so the point with, advice and context is that advice has to be within the context of the situation you're addressing. Yes. And the problem with AI is that, to your point, is that the world's getting more complex, more systems are coming online, more bullshit lovable type apps are going to flood the market. There's going to be more tech bros saying bullshit, making it more cloudy and difficult to understand. And at the end of the damn day, people just want to make some more sales. They want to be able to get more revenue coming into their business. Yeah. And yet now I have to detangle all this crazy crap.
Correct.
And you need people like yourself and me who can come in and go, okay, whoa. This is way overcomplicated. There's actually this very clear path. I've been through the woods before. I know what to do. And just follow me and you can avoid all the craziness. Yeah. I just went to a last little piece here. I just went to this thing called the Mankind Project over a couple weekends ago. And it's this kind of it's a weekend retreat for men to, it's basically going through this journey of, I don't want to say awakening. It's more of like a, how they have the man to boy journey, hero's journey kind of thing. Yep. So it was this fun weekend where we got to explore our own, internal emotions and beliefs and all that kind of stuff. But there was a game, which I probably shouldn't say out loud, but I'll say it anyways, which is there was a game where we played the game. There was very clear directions, a very clear path. But then within the game, there was all these people called thieves. I'm not going to use the word they actually used, but basically these deceptors, these people that were meant to deceive you.
Yep.
And in the game, in the darkness, despite the clarity of the rule set and how simple it was, all of a sudden, all of that got thrown into doubt. All of a sudden, it was like, wait, is this guy here screwing with me? Is he actually, does he have my best interest? Because he seems very confident. Should I listen to him? And meanwhile, as I'm having that thought, other people and their other teams are going by me. I'm like, do they know? Are they supposed to be doing the right thing? And so the moral of the story here is that it's just like life, where it's like in our own lives, there are very confident, very idiotic people who are screaming at the top of their lungs, telling us which way to go. And
just go on LinkedIn, right?
Just go on LinkedIn. Yeah. The challenge is knowing who to follow. Yes. And the problem, this compounds when you add into the fact that outbound B2B sales cycles with anything on a high ticket basis, over 5K, 10K, AOV, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to even know if your outbound process is really even humming and working.
Yeah.
So it's like any direction you go into, you're going in there for 6 months for better or worse. And so you might come out at the end of that 6-month cycle and go, well, that sucked. Shit, we got to do it again. Now you have another 6-month turn in that direction. So that's why it's just like avoid this noise, define the most simple, basic process you need, hire people like you and me so that you don't get deceived by some idiot who just came out of, whatever college and now he wants to start his first agency.
Yep.
So
Yeah, 100%. And there is going to be more and more of that. And for anyone listening, like take a step back. It doesn't mean you shouldn't bet on people. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't, use agencies. You have to, I think, and more now than ever to the whole point of this. But at the same time, you had to use some level of discernment when, looking at what is this person telling me? One of my biggest pet peeves, LinkedIn right now. I hate going on LinkedIn. I like literally despise it. I don't go on it. My co-founder is on there all day. She's amazing. Shout out Mariah for handling that. I struggle to even go on there. And the reason is every single person is not every single person, overgeneralization, but a lot of people are, here's the exact blueprint that took me from 0 to $30 million ARR in 90 days. And yeah, like some of them are probably true, but there's this over, sensationalized. What word am I thinking of?
sensationalization.
Yeah. Of these processes, and they're usually not that good. Even if they did do that thing and you copied that exact thing, you're probably not going to do the same thing. So it's like, you have to, like you said, pick something, stick with it. Know it's probably going to suck for a while. You know what I mean? And you really discern like these one-off standout things are probably not going to happen to you. And if they do, it usually doesn't happen because you just copied someone else's, situation, and it happened to you also. Usually it's years of you figuring out what works, and then that one thing clicks, and boom, So, but yeah, it's a very tough market right now. I would hate to be, a business owner that is not tech savvy, trying to navigate the waters right now. Of what to implement, what not to, and who to trust. I mean, it's tough, so
it really is trust. It's tough. And there's what makes it even stranger. And this is behind the scenes, pulling back the curtains for anybody who's like evaluating tech providers. There are a lot of politics at play that people can't even realize that's happening even within the little agency world or even within certain providers. For example, I'm not going to name names because I'm even playing the game because I don't want to piss off some providers, but there's some very powerful technology providers in the space that all the agencies use, and you probably can think of some. And if you say anything bad about their product, they will come after you. And you're going to be enemy number one. Especially if you're a public figure. And not that I'm like famous or anything, but I have a little bit of a following on LinkedIn. And if I say the wrong thing, I'll get 5 DMs, be like, dude, I can't believe you just posted that. All right. And so there's a real kind of force behind the scenes of people curtailing and changing what you should or should not say. And I can say that like, even when I created this whole thing called like auditing GTM experts series, I got through 2. By the second one, and I was super PC, super like, it wasn't like I was saying mean things. I was just saying the truth. Like, this is why what this guy just said is not true, and this and this and this and this. And I got like 5 or 6 people like that were really angry at me for just saying the truth. So it's interesting because that makes it difficult for the consumer too, where it's like, look, even if the good guys that want you to know the truth are being kind of blackballed by these other people, it creates this chilling effect where it's just like the bullshit reigns. So for me, what I have to do on sales calls is just say like, look, like I'm going to tell you everything you need to ask other people. I know you're going to go evaluate other agencies. Ask them these 5 things. If they don't know this, 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 and this, they're just full of shit. Just ignore them and then go find other people that do. So yeah, man, it's a whole world out there. You got to be careful.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it kind of sucks as a business owner myself too. It's like I have to almost, if I want to roll out a new motion, or, maybe like paid ads, like a good example of like, dude, I'm not a media buyer, and if I want to go get a good agency that's, going to run ads for me, it's like, you might have to be like ready to lose, 40, 50 grand just to figure out which agency you want to work with. Because the first two you're going to work with, like, just aren't it, and well, you got to pay for their fee, and then you got to pay for your, ad spend. So it's like, you get pretty deep pretty quick on, trying to analyze this stuff. I have one client right now who paid a ton of money for this crazy AI thing. I don't even want to say it out loud because he might listen to this. And, but it's like, it was $20,000 pretty much just thrown down the garbage can, and we rebuilt this thing basically for free for him. And, a couple of days, like, minimal effort. And that's not because we're so good at what we do. It's because it wasn't really anything to begin with. We just got sold. So yeah, I think, but there's also a lot of good guys out there. Like, that's something I don't want to like end this conversation with. Like, oh, it's just all like shit out there. Like, there are a lot of people doing really cool stuff. And I think those people are transparently, like, you can go on YouTube and find some guys. I mean, they're screen sharing. There's no fancy editing. There's no teleprompter, right? They are just sitting down on their computer and building stuff. And you can watch it start to finish. And that allows you to really get that kind of just looking over their shoulder going, what are these guys doing? And then you can really make the determination for yourself. And I think that's why YouTube has pivoted the style of content that people, especially in B2B, really enjoy. And you've noticed probably more of those videos are just straight up Loom videos, because I think there is a lot more transparency in that. So
yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's great people and there's not great people, but that's life, right? I mean, there's the key thing is, I think, for anybody who's an entrepreneur, especially new entrepreneurs, get very clear on your values, get very clear on your standards, get very clear on what you expect of people you work with. And that's not a vendor problem. That's just do you have good judgment problem? Exactly. Are you a good leader?
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So I feel like this gets back kind of the full circle to where we started, which is like, look, process is a part of the equation, but ultimately it starts with good leadership and then good people. Then you add process to it, and then you can see what works. But at the end of the day, good sales process, good sales leadership won't solve a shitty product, and won't solve a bad lead generation, and won't solve a bad offer. And so I have this whole what matters diagram that I give people, where it's just like, look, if you don't know who your ideal customer profile is, and you don't have very clear offers created, and you don't have a very clear lead demand gen engine going, then it's like, why do you have a sales process here? Like, it's like you don't even have the most basic thing figured out, such as your positioning.
You're an outbound agency. You probably deal with that quite a bit. I know I hired an email agency. I hired an email agency. I thought we were going to, crush it with our cold outbound. I learned real quick that like my offer at the time was just total shit. And like I couldn't even blame them, because I realized like, oh man, I tried to write all these different emails and I got like literally 0.1% response rate on some of these. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't think this is them. This is like my shitty offer, that no one wants. And that was a wake up call for me. But there's a lot of that in the market. I just had a sales call yesterday, actually. Amazing guy, booked from YouTube, and was having a call with us, and he wanted a CRM, and I was basically asking him how many leads. He had very low lead flow, very rocky, bumpy revenue that, just, I was like, man, can I be honest with you? Yeah. I'm like, that money that you were going to pay us for this like implementation, I was like, can you please just take it and like go dump it in your ad spend? You know what I mean? Go dump it into a cold email campaign, like something, like go generate some leads, man, because I'd rather you be filling up the bucket and then trying to fix the bucket than like have a really nice bucket with nothing in it. It's like, So yes, people definitely have to look at the whole thing and go, what matters right now? And if you don't know, you gotta ask some people, because having a really cool CRM with no leads is probably one of the worst feelings. It's like having a Ferrari with no gasoline to put in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about understanding the stages of development, because it's like for example, we just launched ReviOps. We started with, first off, several years of our own experience dealing with the problem. And I validated the problem existed because I dealt with it. I talked to my agency friends, they dealt with it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to build my own first version of it for myself. Maybe I won't go past that. Maybe it'll just be for me. And I built it and I was like, okay, I starting to understand this better. And then I went to market and then I put together what I call the top 6 challenges diagram. And it was just a Canva document that said problem 1, solution 1, problem 2, solution 2, etc. And I passed that around as a PDF and I said, are these the problems you guys deal with too? Our website was garbage. It was just nothing. It was basically just like I think it's up at this very moment. We're literally rehauling it as we speak. But that's had no bearing on my initial 30 clients. It was like literally me and LinkedIn DMs, made zero emails, 0 cold calls. All I did was LinkedIn DMs. I had it was crazy. I was having this crazy response rate for a couple reasons. One is my profile is identical to my ICP. Mm-hmm. So they come to me and it's like, I'm an agency owner like you and I'm solving my problems. Do you want to see what I'm doing?
Yep.
It's like, yeah, sure. I'll check it out. 2 is the problem solution fit was just frickin' perfect because I had thought about it a lot. And so it's like, after you get past that kind of clarifying of message market fit problem statements, then it's like, okay, go try to now close some deals, put together an offer. We did a free offer for the first 20 days, didn't close shit. Everybody wanted to try it, but nobody was actually using it. And then I was like, okay, let's try it at $100 a month. Started getting people to use it. Went to $500 a month. All of a sudden people were using it. Went to $2,000 a month. All of a sudden I'm getting real utilization.
Yeah.
And so it was like, but my website wasn't great. And it was like my sales process. Well, I already have that because it's my sales process, but you get the point is that people think, oh, I need this beautiful, fully fleshed, positioning and website from day one and this perfect offer from day one. And if I don't have the sales process in place and everything's ready to go, then my whole thing will suck. And it's like, no, focus on the first constraint first is, do you have an offer that will convert? And if you don't, then you should probably go mom test people, read the mom test book, go talk to your ideal customer profile, come up with positioning statements and just validate some basic hypotheses. And then go and add your nice website and then go add a sales process with some lead generation. But people solve the wrong problems first because they think it's the sexy thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you got bigger problems to solve, man.
Yeah, totally. I worked at a company called mastermind.com, which is like Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. I worked for them a long time, built out their whole operation, but we had a lot of clients, which were like coaches and consultants, and they were starting their own little consulting agency. And it was like really almost sad how many people were buying this coaching program and would never do anything with it because they would get so much overwhelmed on, oh, I gotta get my logo, I gotta get my business card ready. I gotta get my website. It's like, you don't need any of that. You know what I mean? Your logo isn't going to run your ads for you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's basic entrepreneurship. That's you should be learning that pretty early on, but some people don't, I guess. And then, I think the product market, we're working on a SaaS right now that I'll announce probably here in a month or 2, but we're super excited. And we've been working on it for a little while, but it's very similar to you. It came out of a problem that I personally have been trying to solve for 4 years. And I was I couldn't solve it. My clients can't solve it. I can't solve it for my clients. It's and I finally got so mad about it because I was I don't know what to do. And the only thing was okay, I guess I just have to start from scratch and pretend there is no other solution and make mine. So it's going well, but I'm excited because that one, the offer proposition was already there because it was one of those things. I told my CTO, dude, if you want to do this thing, I'm telling you, I could pick up my phone and call 15 people right now, you know what I mean? And have them on contracts. We just have to build the thing. And that's a cool feeling, because there's a lot of products obviously that maybe that isn't there yet. You have to go prove it. But yeah, so, and it's cool how many entrepreneurial products come from, just like you and RevOps and the dashboards you were showing me came from you, very similar, trying to, and I know you were trying to solve them because you were, you had opted in for our stuff originally. It was like, oh, maybe we can use these. They weren't like the best, and yeah, so.
Yeah, there's a reason why Combinator likes to choose founders that are solving their own problem, is because it allows you to bypass what I call the 1,000 conversation requirement, which is, it's a kind of cliche and it's probably a little hyperbolic, but it's this idea that, like, if you don't actually go live the life of the person, then you don't truly understand the problems and the tangential problems and the solutions that are viable. And so you end up building something that seems good, but it's based upon all these false beliefs that are just not true. And then you end up going to market and it doesn't sell. And you're like, why doesn't it sell? And it's because down the rabbit trail of actually experiencing the problem, you realize that there was something that would get you. So for me, like, I did that in my early career with a company called Source Water, where my business partner he went back to school after doing very well in real estate in his late 30s, went to MIT and the Sloan Fellowship program and learned all about hydraulic fracturing, and found out that the water management component of oil and gas was this big opportunity, and like 10 times the amount of water was coming out of the ground than oil, and they had this problem of getting rid of it. So he had this like grand idea just out of his own head of, let's create a marketplace. Well, it turns out, I can tell you, fast forward 10 years, that's a fucking horrible idea. Because for a number of reasons, which I could spend an hour talking about. But the point is like, rather than going and just, he didn't validate it. He didn't go talk to 1,000 people or even 100 people. He just decided, I'm going to build this marketplace, invest $300,000 in building this, essentially something he could have done on, frankly, WordPress at the time. And he got this designer, and he had this whole team, and he had a CTO who shouldn't have been a CTO. And I came in and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this won't work, and long story short is it didn't work for all the obvious reasons you could have figured out within like 5 phone calls to some people.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if you know your own problem, it works. You know that you want to solve it. Like, I know, for example, that I get lost in the middle of the funnel with not knowing what's happening with sales conversations and my meeting show rate versus not show rate. I know that that's something I want to know. And I know most dashboards kind of suck, and so it's like something I wanted to solve for myself. And even if nobody ever bought it, hell, I use it in my own agency,
Exactly.
I still can monetize it. So totally. Yeah. So I know we've been on for a while. So is there any, to start wrapping it up, is there anything that you want, my audience, entrepreneurs, GTM people, lead gen people, revenue operations people, what do you think is like either some big thing you would like to leave with them, or even just maybe a prediction or some big trend you're seeing that you think would be insightful?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing I've been seeing a trend that they might want to steer clear of. I've been seeing this. You really got to be careful. Is AI voice agents, and the misuse of that product has been like almost appalling lately. Of how many people are essentially using AI agents to outbound dial lists that they don't have explicit permission to dial. And this is a huge problem. The FTC is very clear on robocall guidelines. And yes, voice agents are cool. Yes, everyone wants to use them. Yes, replacing setters sounds like the greatest gift that God has given us in a while. I hate setters. You know what I mean? Like, if I don't ever have to use one again, I wouldn't. But that's not the case. So I would say, like, that's a huge thing that I'm seeing recently of like, oh yeah, I just bought this AI agent and it's going to go call all my leads. I'm like, oh, they tell you like that's just completely illegal. You can't call those people, so that would be something that I would be very careful of. and just do the research on robocalls. And then, yeah, I think the second piece relates right back to this, which is like AI is there's such a huge opportunity to revolutionize your business, to increase your profit margins, right? To reduce your headcount inside of your organization. But doing it in a way to cut corners, like this robocalling thing, and like, the amount of fines that you would get if you just did basic math, it's like insane. So don't cut corners, and then make sure that you're trying to find the simplest possible path to the solution, regardless if it includes AI or not. Because you will find that in most of these solutions, you don't need AI. There's no reason to use AI in them. And there's a much simpler way to achieve it, the same outcome. And then the third piece of that would be what we had talked about earlier, which is, establish what the actual problem is, and take enough time to truly get to the core of that, and then peel the onion back a couple layers, go even deeper, because most of the people I'm talking to recently, AI or not, we're not even trying to solve the right problems. Like we're just throwing up problems and like pretending like these things that we are going to solve them, like, and they're not. So I guess more so than like advice of how to help, it's like of what not to do right now, because I'm just seeing this huge trend across all my clients and people, sales calls that I'm having, are those three things. We're trying to solve problems that don't exist. We're trying to use systems that we shouldn't be using, and ultimately we're cutting corners on like simple work. And I'll raise my hand and say I'm the first one guilty. I recently stopped using ChatGPT for any copy, any creative writing, like anything. Like I literally, it's in my bedroom right now, but I have a piece of paper, like a notebook, big notebook, college ruled, and a pen. I just bought it. I'm in Germany. I walked all the way down to this freaking supermarket and bought it because I was like, man, I have to get back into my creative thinking, and I was cutting corners. I was putting all this stuff in ChatGPT, and I was spending more time trying to get it to sound like me than exactly. I would have just writing the ad that I had in my head, So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, it's fantastic advice. I would say as a follow-up to that, I remember this was even a year ago. There was a tool called, I think it was Air. I don't know if it's still the thing.
Air.ai?
Like a robocaller. Yeah, is that it?
I actually am. I have a lot of context here. Yeah. But go on. That's funny.
Okay, well, I'm going to shit on them for a second.
Yeah. No,
let me tell you a story with Air. So I was at a conference, and this guy was like, had basically white labeled Air. And maybe it's gotten a lot better, so I apologize. Air, if you want to come on the podcast and tell me why.
Essentially.
Oh, they are? Okay, well, that's why. So what happened with Air was I got up front where there was this 300 people, and this guy's like, who wants to be the person who my AI calls? And I was like, me, because I knew I was going to break this thing. I was being such a jerk. And so I went to the front, and they go, ring, ring, ring. I'm like, yeah, who is this? I don't have time. I just knew that would break it. And this thing just starts freaking out. And I'm like, I got to go.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, let's try that again. It doesn't usually happen like that. I'm like, okay. Hey, who is this? I don't have time. And I just did exactly like that, and it broke again. So it's like, not only are the robo-dialers legal and you're going to get in trouble, but on top of that, they don't really work. And if you have a small total addressable market, if you have important people, you don't want that to be the taste that they get when they're hearing from your company the first time.
No. So, yeah. And people really need to like think about what you're trying to do. Like, because in my head, it seems so crazy, but to other people right now, it seems like the normal. I really have had actually a hard time kind of understanding why. I'm like, these are like savvy business owners, that you're calling. Why would you want an AI to call them? Like, your leads are valuable. You paid for them, right? Like, why would you want And yes, one day it's going to be good enough. It'll be really, really good. And it'll probably be more enjoyable than talking to a normal person because it's probably going to be funnier and it's going to be smarter and it's going to be even more witty than your normal sales rep. But that is not the case right now. And for inbound, if you have a medical, a plastic surgeon, and you want your front desk to have an AI, like amazing. No one loves an IVR system, like if you call Bank of America and you get stuck on that machine, it sucks. I would much rather talk to an AI agent. So for inbound, like, receptionist stuff, it is very good and can be good. But yeah, quit doing the outbound stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the second thing you said as a follow up to that was you said, don't overuse AI if you don't need to. And generally speaking, I agree. There's this trend where, like, I even got on a call with a woman the other day and her job was like director of AI or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, her main question for me with outbound was, how are you using AI to do this? To your point earlier. And I said, we actually don't use AI anymore. And she was like, oh, I can't use you. And I'm just like, I just want you to leave this call understanding why. And so I went on this very kind of deep discussion of like what you have to look out for. And she left the call and she's like, oh, shit, this just changed how I think about outbound entirely. And my thinking about what AI can do is actually not true. And I'm like, yeah, there's no need to, like, you're having a solution chase a problem, which is never good.
Yeah.
It's like the number one beginner mistake in business is solution chasing problem. Always start with problem, to your point. Always find constraint, to your point. And then go find the best and most elegant, simplest solution, which oftentimes is not AI. I'm with you there as well.
Yeah. And even if it is, like, I started seeing a lot of, this is a little more technical. I know we're trying to wrap up, but like, N8N, there's, for the more technical people, there's you can use a node essentially that is just a ChatGPT node, and then you have your AI agent node, right? And what I have seen is, like, I'll open up these N8N workflows or see them online, and they have an AI agent node where a basic ChatGPT node could go, like, you know what I mean? Because all you're doing is processing information. You're not doing any logical tasks or making it recall databases. Like, you're not doing any of that. So it's like, why is this AI agent sitting inside of here? Like, this is literally just a ChatGPT step. Like, you just have a system prompt and a system message. Like, that's it. So yeah, it's getting out of hand, honestly. Just so simplest possible solution will always be the best,
So to that point, on the NAN point, which is that the big signal trend right now, which is RB2B, website visitor, do something, make a call, or like Trigify, LinkedIn competitor post, do something, job change, whatever the signal is. And the thing is that, yes, those can be triggers, but there needs to be more context, right? So what we're building at RevOps, which is coming out in a month, is you can already ingest through NAN all of these signals based upon the platform of your choice into a common unified profile. And we show a stream of events of all those things occurring over time within that profile. Now, that's just the start of it. But then we have this thing called triggers where you can then say, okay, if these three things happen within this time period or whatever signals you care about, then go send a webhook back to ChatGPT. To NAN with an agent if you would like. But now the agent can actually write copy with more context of like, hey, we did this research on this profile. We know that they live at this address and are 5 miles down the street from this ideal customer. And they just did these three things in relation to them. Now go write copy.
Yes.
Okay, that gets a little more interesting. I still would argue you don't need a GPT to do that for you. You just need a good templated email that takes those merge fields and plugs them in. But nonetheless, it comes down to context, I think, beats personalization. And that's like a big idea for people where it's like AI is great at personalization. It's not great at context.
Yep.
So you need to give it that context so that it can write good stuff. So yeah, man.
Good stuff.
I'm with you. Where can people find you? Where's your main website or maybe even your LinkedIn profile? Or you're not on LinkedIn or wherever you decide to hang out.
Yeah. So We're at revpilot.co. Co is our main website. You can find most of everything on there. We also have a YouTube channel, which is under my full name. So it's Jordan R as in Robert, Jordan R Park. And we have tons of videos on there. And then my Instagram is the same thing. I'm very much like an Instagram guy, but it's, I'm not a big business content guy. So yeah, most of the stuff on there is travel. And then, we have our YouTube channel, and then we have our website, and, we're happy to point people in the right direction. If it's a lead gen stuff, this is your guy. We don't do any lead gen stuff at all. So it's mostly, like you said, post. I usually say post phone number. It's like, once I have a phone number, like we can take care of it. But yeah, so, and I appreciate you having me on, man. It was a great conversation, and I think we're very similar. So I know the first time we chatted a couple weeks back, we could just talk for days on this kind of stuff. So always a good time.
We've lived similar lives. There's not many people on planet Earth that have run sales operations agency that really like close, who've built dashboards on top of this stuff, and have probably dealt with the same problems. So I'm sure that if we wanted to do 4 episodes on this, we could. Perhaps we can do the next one on your podcast.
Yeah, 100%.
So, thanks everyone for listening. We're going to sign off here, and you can always check out the show notes if you want to check out Rev Pilot, and we'll talk to you guys on the next episode. See you later.